Can you hear me? Can you hear me? If you're just
Yes,
joining for the first
can
time,
hear you.
is it only Amos that is joining for the first time? Because I saw more than one person join the group chat. Or they are not yet in the meeting.
I can hear you.
Okay, Anthony. Apart from Anthony, who else? Okay, Taiwo is also new. Who else? Is it just two of them?
There are more than two. Oh, I don't know what's happening now.
It's just only two people that said they are new here, Anthony and Taiwo. Do they know they're supposed to be in the meeting?
Yes. They know. I already dropped the message on Telegram and also on the group chat. So, and I've posted the link. Even Elise has posted the link again. So they know.
Oh, okay. Oh. Chioma, are you also new? Because I'm quite familiar with the names I see here. And the new names I can see here, Chioma, Emanuela, Gabriel, Gabi. I don't think I've seen that name since we've started this class. Anthony, Taiwo, and of Afolabi Ifedolapo. Are you also new here? If you are, just drop a message on the group chat. I just want to identify you guys because we've gone quite far, right? Okay, I know that we're supposed to move forward, right? But I just want to help them out because we've gone so far and they will not really understand today's class if they are just beginners, right? And that's why I'm looking for them so that I can know if they are all beginners or some of them are at intermediate level already or they are experts. So please, for those people that are new, can you write in the chat box if you're a beginner, if you're intermediate level, or if you're already an expert? Please let me know. Okay. I could not, your name was not familiar. That's why I asked. That's for Chioma, but I've gotten that. So for the others, all right, no problem. But for the others, let me know in the chat box if you're a beginner. Okay, since the newcomers don't want me to help them, it seems I'll just move forward then. But just check the recordings, right? And when you check the recordings, if you have any questions, you can ask. But I don't know how you flow into this class. Okay, Taiwo is a beginner, all right. So Taiwo, we've done some HTML parts before, right? And at the moment we're in CSS. So prior to this time, we have downloaded something called Visual Studio Code, which is a text editor that we'll use to like run all that we're trying to create in our So you've missed a lot actually. So what I'll just do is that I'll just send you the Visual Studio Code so you can download it and just try to follow in this class and watch the videos. Watch the videos. Then we'll most likely have a makeup class, right, for you guys. Or if there's no makeup class, but first off, watch the video. Then anything you don't understand, let me know so that we can pick up the makeup class from. But I would get the downloading link now for the Visual Studio Code. But if you don't want to use Visual Studio Code as a text editor, or you already have it, you don't have to download it. Or if you don't have it, okay, you have VS Code, okay. So if you don't have VS Code and you have other text editor, that's also fine. All right. Since you have, let me just post it for people that don't have and they don't want to talk, and they're also newcomers. So I hope you guys will be able to follow through into this class. I really hope. So does anybody want to give me what they learned from the assignment? I told us to read about box model. Anybody? Anybody?
Hear me? Hello?
Yes, I can hear you, Anu.
Hello?
I can hear you,
Can you
Anu.
hear me?
Yes, I can hear you,
So I
Anu.
read that box model is
Mhm,
used to describe designs.
mhm,
Okay. So I read that box model.
mhm,
Box model is
mhm.
used to describe that wraps around every HTML element. And I also read that it consists of margins, borders, paddings, and content. So those are the four major things that the box model consists: margin, border, padding, and content.
Mhm.
So that's all I'm able to say about that.
All right. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. So let's start off with what we have today on box model, which would also will also continue on our classwork folder, right? So like I said yesterday, that the box model consists of 5 places, 5 properties rather, which includes your width, your height, your padding, your margin, and your what border. And prior to now, we already know what the border is. We already know width and height to some point. So it's our margin and our padding that'll be like really strange. But I know I've mentioned about border in class. I know that everybody here can identify a border. But before we go, I want us to also see this. Let's not forget this short note here to just help us and make us understand that, okay, we're not alone, right? So don't worry if it seems like you cannot remember some of the CSS properties that we've done so far. I know there are a lot, even HTML elements, most of them are a lot. And you most likely can't remember everything, right? So don't panic. You just keep looking at them on the internet and they'll sink in eventually. And when the props have to look things up every time, even the props, like even professional, even me too, I still have to Google some things sometimes. It's not like I have it all figured out. Okay. So now to box model. So this box model can be very tricky, and it's an important aspect of your CSS because it entails your what, your elements. I don't know if anybody can remember when I spoke about block and inline. Can anybody remember?
Yes, we can.
All right. So what was the thing I said about block and inline? Quickly.
Hello, ma.
Yes.
You said that a block level that
Block
it
and inline.
has a top and a bottom margin, and it
Yes.
starts on a new line. It takes up the full width available.
Yes.
And there are also contents next to each other. But in an inline, it doesn't take up the full width, and it doesn't start on a new line, and it doesn't have the top and bottom margin.
All right. So what is the this thing? What is an example of the element, the block element and the inline element. Can you give me an example?
Okay, I
For
can give
block,
an example of block, like address is a block element.
What?
Like address.
All right.
div and span.
Mhm.
Div is a block element, a span is an inline level.
Okay. All right. So an example of an inline is what your images, your spam, and all of those things, right? And for your block elements, we have our P, we have our P, we have our we have our P, we have our H1, and all of those things. So the CSS box model just describes the way CSS styles the size and spacing of your HTML elements. So to understand the box model, you need to understand how the browser works, right? You need to understand how your browser sees your HTML elements. So that's why I told us about block and inline, because it sees your elements in those two formats. It sees your elements in the display, it displays your elements in the block and in the inline, right? Let me leave where I am. It's a bit noisy. So okay. I've tried to reduce the noise a bit. So your browser displays your elements in two ways, in two formats, either as a what? Block element or as an inline element. And your browser, every HTML element is a rectangular box. Don't worry, I'll get to show you the outline of all the elements in an HTML document. It looks a bit like the next slide. It looks like this. So this is how it sees your elements, right? If you notice from the explanation I gave about inline, I mean about block and inline. So which one is inline, which one is a block? From looking at this screen. Are you guys there?
Yes, can you scroll it up a bit so that we get to see everything?
This is everything.
Yes, we can hear you, ma. Hello, ma.
Yes. I said, which one is the inline, which one is the block from the way it is displayed?
Okay, your name, the H1 tag,
Okay,
your
the
name.
inline is the image.
Mm-hmm.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. The inline is the image and what?
The P's are blocked.
The block
All
and the
right.
P and
H
H1. Yeah, the
are
H2, they're
blocked.
all blocked.
All right, they are all blocked. So you can see how they covered the whole width, right? So like I said from here, how that in a slide before now, they said that your browser sees every element in it. Every element is in a rectangular box. But in this case, we can see the ones that are blocked. The ones that are blocked, they covered the whole width because it's a what? Block element. But everything is in a container, it's in like a rectangular box. So, but can you see the image? The image did not cover the whole width, it just covered the width that was like required of it, because the image is this, has this particular width and height. So can we see? So this is how it sees audio elements. Audio elements is like in a triangle, right? So like I said earlier, and I've been saying that the CSS uses 5 properties to determine the size and spacing of this box. So for you to see the size and spacing of all of these box, each of these box, there are 5 properties for each of these box. There are 5 properties that you must come across. So the 5 properties is what? Your width, your height, your border, your margin, and your padding. So I'm going to use this one of this hello world now, right? It's serving as an element. So I'm going to use this element, which is enclosed maybe H1 or P, to show us where our padding, our border, our width and height is. Don't worry, we'll get to make sense of it very well soon, but just pay attention. So this is your content, right? Your content is what? The hello world. Yeah. We all know where width and height is. We know from here to here, and from here to here is your what? Is your width. And we know from the edges, this from here to here, from here to here is what? Your what? Height. And this hello world is called your what? It's called a content. It's what's in between your tag element, right? So in between, and we also know where our border is. I've shown us where a border is before, right? So in between your content and your border, that's where your padding is. Padding and margin can be very confusing, but if you get it and understand it, it will be clear. So you can see where your border is. Whenever we do border 1 pixel solid, you will see that the border will be around that element, right? So from your border to your content, where you have your content written, is called what? Padding. And from outside of your border till the ending of your web browser, that is where your what? Margin is. So don't forget, margin is from what? Your browser to your what? Border. And padding is from your border to your content in your elements. We'll still make sense of what I just explained now. Just pay attention. So these margins now, right? So there are 2 CSS properties for adding space around our element, but the box model entails 5. But for adding space, it's just 2, as your margin and what's your padding. So the margin property adds space around the elements outside of the border. So if, for instance, we make H2, don't do that to just see, but if you can do it just so that you understand it. But I don't want a situation whereby when you not do it, you not confuse your own code. But just know that whatever we're doing now, you remove it when we're done. I just want to use it to explain. So you can add a margin of 40 pixels to your code. If you notice at the moment, there's a border around what? This is your hello world, right? That's why we have this red. There's a border around this. We've kept our border line. Then the content hello world. Can you see how the space went? The space went from what? From your web browser to what? The border. That is where your margin comes in. Can you see that it's this place that there's space? It did not cover up the whole width anymore. It's just from here to where your element, your border is. Also from here to where your what? Border is. And sometimes, in most cases, it also has stop from here, from where your border is to the top, from here to this down place. So margin affects four parts of your elements. So there's margin top, there's margin left, there's margin bottom, and there's margin right. So this is your top, this is your left, your right, sorry, your what? Your bottom, and your right, and your
Sorry for that. Our facilitator has network issues, so she'll be back shortly. Daniel, Sylvia, hope no problem. We really didn't see you in class yesterday. Hope everything is fine. Daniel Silva, can you hear me?
I don't know. I think you should listen to it.
Hello, can someone hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Hello, can someone hear me? Can you signify if you can hear me or say something?
We can hear you.
You.
Hear
Okay,
you well.
thank you very much. I'm talking about Daniel. Hope no problem. We didn't see you in class yesterday. Hope everything is okay. I guess Daniel is not in class. He just logged in. Okay, once again, welcome to the new set of people.
I was around yesterday.
Okay, Daniel, what happened?
I was around yesterday.
But at some point, I did not see you. That's why I said let me check
I
up.
was locked out. That's why.
Oh,
I can hear
okay,
you.
no problem. No problem.
Okay.
Today, please, can someone check up on Ume Joma? She's not in class. She's not in class. Thank you. And also welcome once again, Mr. Ezra. It's nice seeing you, despite the message board. It's nice seeing you in class. So let's just wait. Can anyone just brief us on what they learned yesterday before our tutor comes back? Hello. Miruvier, can you please brief us on what you've learned as of yesterday? I guess there was an assignment or classwork.
Okay, yesterday we started introduction to CSS, and we learned about
And how the margin is from what? From your border to what? The beginning of your elements, right? Then we have the padding. This was only margin. Now they've added the padding. Can anybody identify where the padding is? Since you already know where the margin is.
In between the text and the border.
Yes. In between the text and the border, actually, that's where your padding is. Your padding is in between the text and the border. That's why if you notice, prior to now, there was not much space between this hello world and your border. But in this space, we can see how much space it is from what the hello world to your what to your border. So don't forget, margin is the one in between your border and your content, and padding, margin is the one in between your border and your content, and margin is the one after your border to your element, like to the end of the element. And margin and padding, the difference between them is that when you're adding a padding to an element, it makes the element what? Bigger. Whereas adding a margin adds space around the element. This is what it just simply means. Before we had our margin here, you can see that this hello world didn't look that big, right? It just looked normal. It was just there. It was not as big as it should have. But now look at this place. Can you see? Then there's an expansion. Can you see that? So that's the difference. Margin always make your what? Element looks bigger. Whereas adding a margin, that's for padding rather. Padding makes your element looks bigger because it's between the what? Element and the padding, and the other one just makes it smaller. So if you make a 100 pixels wide element, then add 40 pixels of padding to it, it will become 180 pixel wide. And if you add a 40 pixel margin to a 100 pixel wide element, it still stays 100 pixels wide. And if you add 1 pixel border to a 100 pixel wide element, it will become 102 pixel wide. So it's making you understand how that is padding that makes your element bigger, like wider. And if your element doesn't have a border or a background, you will not be able to see the difference between margin and padding. And that's what happens in most cases, because you can see it. But in your browser, it's every time you see it, because it's not every time you would have to put a border. Neither is there any time you have to put a background. But your margin and your padding will still work, right? It still work the way it is supposed to work and do what it's supposed to do. So you can also specify which side of an element you want your margin to apply. I've mentioned that. But I mentioned that for padding. It also applies to margin. They both have top, they both have bottom, they have left and right. And if you want to use everything, like the way there's a shorthand for for background, there's a shorthand for that one. So you just write it in a clockwise direction. The first one is top, the second one is right, then the next one is bottom, then left. Or you specify the one you want to use. Even if you just only want to use margin top or bottom, like you want to use two of them, you must always follow like 2 out of the 4, and you are trying to use the shorthand, it must follow the format. The thing you just is that the one that you don't want to put anything in, you can just put 0 so that it doesn't change, right? And you can do this use that margin and padding for your words, for your what's the name. So we will come back to this exercise, right? We'll come back to this exercise. We'll do this exercise soon enough, but I won't take us to CSS. Let's try some things in CSS, like do some examples on it before we now come and do the exercise in the classwork. So we'll start with what? Borders first. We all know how the borders properties work. It just basically allows you to specify the style, the width and color of an element's border. That's just the idea behind your borders. We've been seeing borders since. So can you see they put a border around this? It just makes you alert, okay, this is how this looks like. And you can just put border to just only the bottom. It should not be around the 4 sides. You can also have rounded borders. What can we do, or what do we do to have rounded borders?
Border radius.
Exactly, border radius. It's border radius properties we use to achieve that. And we can have borders that are like this. Can you see? Just only the left border that will show. right? So the style you use for your border is called your what? Border style property. And it specify what kind of border to display. Like which kind of border do you want to display? So there are different values that you are allowed. You can define a dotted border. That's for dotted. It defines a dotted border. For dash, it defines a dashed border. For solid, it defines a solid border. A solid we've been using since. We've not used dotted, dashed, double, and all of those things, but we'll see how they work. Then we have groove. It defines a 3D grooved border. So the effect depends on the border color value for groove. Then there is ridged. That one defines a 3D ridge border. The effect depends on the border color value. The effect of ridge, insert, and outset all depends on the border color. None, that is, don't give it any border. There should not be any border. Hidden. There's a difference between none and hidden. None, don't even give it a border at all. But hidden, there's a border, you cannot see it. That's the value. Hidden, you cannot see it, but the border is there. But none, there's no even border there. You've removed it completely. So the border style property can have more than 1 to 4 values. So there's top border, right border, bottom border, left border. The way we likewise that of margin and padding. They have top, bottom, and all of those things. So there's a demonstration of the different borders, and these are the results. So you see the result now. So this for what? Dotted. Dotted is the first one. Dash is the second one. Solid is the third one. I'm sure by now we are all used to solid because we've used solid over time now. Then we have double. Double is this double line you can see over here. Then the groove. You will not be able to see the groove. You'll not be able to like see the effect very well. But you can see that the groove, the ridge, the inset and outset. You can see, I don't know if you can see this clearly, but the groove is more thicker than the ridge. The ridge is more lighter, right? While the inset border is the down part that is not showing. This is the top part that is really, really highlighted and defined. Then the outset, the down part is showing very well. The up part is not showing. There's no border. That means there's no border. It's not even there. While hidden border is there, but you just can't see it. They're mixed. That is, you can have a border that has what? Dash line, solid, double, and what? So you can have different type of. I was wondering to where it was. So have you seen that? At our spare time, we can try it ourselves. See how it looks like. Then there's a part that specifies the width of the four borders and be set in pixels, etc. Maybe it should be thick, thin, or thick. So can you see? Border style solid, border width 5 pixels. You know there's a shorthand for this. For the shorthand, you will not specify. It was the shorthand we've been using since. The shorthand follows the syntax. 1 pixel solid, then you give the color. So you're telling it how many pixels. You're telling it maybe the property, maybe it should be solid or anything. Then you're giving it a color. So if you don't want to specify, this is what you have. So this one we have solid 5 pixel. You can see how thick it is. Then the second one, when it's medium. Then this one, when it's dotted, 2 pixels. And when it's thick. Then there's also specific side width. So the border width property can have from 1 to 4 values for the what? For the top border, right border, bottom border, and the left border. So you just use your what? Border width. So your border width, it would help you like arrange it the way I spoke of margin and padding, that I say to follow the following syntax when you want to use a shorthand. To just start with what? Top, bottom, and all of those things. But if you see the first one is going to correlate to both top and bottom, and the next one is for the both sides. So can you see the width here? The 20 years for the top and bottom, and the 5 pixels for the side. Or if you don't follow this format, you will use this format that a friend of us spoke about first. That the first one must be the what? Top, then the right, then the bottom, and the left. Like I said, it follows a clockwise direction. So it's either you start it like this, or you start it like this, whereby you just use two. If you just use two, that means you're saying the first one is for the top and bottom, and the last one is for the what? Is for the both sizes. That's if you want the top and bottom to have the same size and the bottom to have the same size, or otherwise you declare it 4 times. And if you are declaring it 4 times, you're seeing the first one as top, the second one as right, the third one as bottom, and the last one as left, right? And also you can also see, you can also use the shorthand whereby you just say border, like I mentioned earlier, and you just say 1 pixel solid, then color. All of this has a format. So there's also border color. So there are different color. You can use red, or you can use the RGB, all of those things. When I taught HTML, we saw this, right? Because the HTML specified what we use color for. It said you can either use it for background, you can either use it for color, that's text, or use it for border. So we saw how we could use this. Either we use maybe the specific color, which is red, green, and blue. So if your border color is not set, right, if you don't give your border a color, you should just inherit the color of the element. Any color the element have, that's just inherit. And you can choose specific side colors. That is, if you want a particular side to be a particular color, and you want the other side to be different from that color, the way you follow that top, right, left, bottom, that clockwise direction movement, that's how you're going to do it. And you can use hexa, you can use RGB, you can use HSL values. Hope I'm not moving too fast. You understand what I've been saying so far? If you understand, can I get a thumbs up in the comments? Or give me your favorite emoji. Okay? Okay. All right. Beautiful. You guys are still with me. So we also have border sizes for individual size. For example, you've seen that from previous page, you have seen that it's possible to specify a different border for each size. And there are also properties for specifying each of the borders. If you want top, right, bottom. So if you want it to be specific, maybe you don't want to use the shorthand method, you can specify if it's just only the top you want. Like if you want just to style only border top, you do just border top. If you want to do solid right, you do just right. If you want to do bottom, you do just bottom, and all of those things. So here's how it works, right? If the border style property has 4 values, that is the border style, the dotted, solid, double dash. The top is what? The dotted. The right is what? The solid. The bottom is what? The double. And the left is dash. If it has just 3 values, it will take the first 3 to be the top, right, and the bottom. If it has 2, if it has 2 values, to say top and bottom are what? Dotted, right and left are solid. So it's just if you just have 2 values, it's just say, okay, the first one is for the top and bottom, second one is for the right and left. And if the border style property just has 1 value, that means you're saying that all the 4 sides, you are not specifying for each of those sides. You're saying all the 4 sides should have that value. Then this is the shorthand that we're talking about since. So then for the shorthand, like I mentioned before, is your width, your style, and your color. And your style is very, very important. Your style is always required. And if you notice, this was the first one we've been using since yesterday. This is what we've been doing. So this is the shorthand. So that one is just, you just put border. It expects that you are following the property width, style, and color. It's that simple. Why for rounded border, someone told us that we use our border radius. So it's your border radius property you use to do that. So there's a way you can go about using your border size radius, right? You can, it's either you make it like round, round, or more round. So the only thing is that you just be increasing it. You can put it in percentage. If the degree of how round your border radius should be will be based on your value you give it, maybe in pixels or in percentage or whatever. That's just going to determine the degree of the roundness that you will get as your result. So there's an exercise here. So let's do that quickly. It's just 4 questions. So let's answer the 4 questions so that we can move to the margin. So if you've answered the 4 questions, give me a thumbs up in the chat. So I'm waiting for us. For the new guys, hope you guys are following. Okay, I've just seen one done. I'm expecting more dons so that we can move. All right. So we have like 5 doors. So I guess more than 5 self. So let's just the amount. It's okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I can see that Taiwo is also participating. That's great. Taiwo, do you understand what we've been doing so far? Oh, all right, beautiful. So you should also check the other videos and the other things we've done. They actually this explanatory too. So this is a recap of everything we've done on borders. Right, your border set all the border properties in one declaration. If you use the shorthand, you know that when you use your border, who wants to help with this border? The moment when you write your border, what's your computer expecting? So the link to the other videos will be posted on the group chat. Your Tolu is going to combine everything together into one. Oh yeah, who wants to help us with the border? Or you don't understand what I mean? You know when you just declare your border style, right? It follows 3 properties. What are the 3 properties that it uses so that you can have your border in one declaration?
It follows the width. Are you with me?
Yes, I'm with you.
Okay, it follows the width, the
Mm-hmm.
style, the color.
Yes. Follows the width, the style, and the color. Thank you so much. Was that Fatima?
Yes.
All right, thank you. So we also have our border bottom. That one it specifies where you want it to be. There's also border bottom color. It specifies the color you want to put in your border bottom. Then border bottom style. It specifies that border bottom style you want. Border bottom width. It specifies that it's just bottom width. Then color. If you say color, it affects all the four borders. If you say border left, you're only referring to only border left. If you say border left color, it's just only border left color. Border left style, you're just declaring changing the style of the border left. Then width, just the border left width. Then border radius is for you to have rounded corners. Then border right, just for right. Likewise, the same way we've had it for left and bottom, that's the same way it is for right and top. So that's that about border. So let's move to margin. So who can help us
Sorry,
about what
please.
I said about margin
Please, I have a
earlier?
question before you move on.
Okay.
Yes, when you were displaying that part where we had the left border, just the left,
Mm-hmm.
we had one that was particularly blue and it was thick. It was like 2 or 3 pixels.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to give it that one, the property that comes with the key border style, border width, and border color, are you going to
Mm-hmm.
say border left? Then
If you want to specify a particular place, it's not like you say border left. You will specify where you want to, like border left color, border left um border left color, border left right, border left, all of those things. Do you understand? See from here. Okay. Actually, border left, if you say border left and you put your solid 1 pixel solid color, it's just going to affect everything in left that has those 3 properties. Do you understand? Did you get that, Fatima? Or I should say it again. Fatima, can you hear me? Fatima, can you hear me? Okay, I don't think she can hear me, Sha. But if you just specify left, it's going to take everything that only border would have done too, but it's just that you only affect the left side. And if you do right, it's going to do that also. So CSS margin is in between words. Your CSS margin is in between your space and your element and outside of any defined borders. So the margin properties are used to create space around elements outside of any defined borders. So this with CSS, you have full control over the margins. There are properties for setting the margins for each side of an element. We have top, right, bottom, and left. It follows the same format that our border also follows. But the properties have a particular value. If you say auto, the browser will calculate the margin. If you put length, that specify a margin in length, it will be in pixels, pt, and centimeter. If you say percentage, it specifies a margin in percentage of the width of the containing element, right? And if you say inherit, it specifies that the margin should be inherited from the parent element. I will explain what that inherited from the parent element means. If, for instance, you have a nested element, you guys can remember when I taught you about nested elements, right? Then you have, for instance, we have um UL. Then in UL, we now have what? LLLLL. So if you're trying to do, guys to get the width in L, we would have what? We would do. So sorry about that. So we have we have specified a margin in percentage of the width of the containing what element, and for inherit it specified that the margin should be inherited from the parent element. So yes, I was explaining what a parent element is. So if you have a nested element, that is an element in an element, maybe we have a div, then in the div we have p and h. So the div is what the children. They are the children of when we start doing pseudo selector. You know, all of this is still in simple selector. You know, yesterday I said that there are 5 different types of selector. We have pseudo selector, simple selector, pseudo element selector. We have pseudo class, pseudo attribute, I mean attribute selectors. So there are 5 basically: attribute, pseudo element, pseudo class, simple, and combinators. So there's a shorthand for your margin. The shorthand is the same thing that I've spoken about since: top, right, bottom, left, following that same clockwise direction. So there's no point wasting time there. And if you don't want that, you can do auto value. If you don't want auto value, you can specify, or you can use to. If you use to, it will see it will see if you use to, it will see the first one as top and bottom, and you see the second one as bottom and left. So you can just click on try it yourself later at your own place to check it. So there's something called margin collapse. So top and bottom margins of elements are sometimes collapsed into a single margin that is equal to the largest of the 2 margins. Pay attention to this because it's very important. Can you remember when I was talking about margin and padding and how I was like, if you increase your margin increases the size of your what, your content, and it also increases the width size. I remember when they said if you had a 40 pixels to an 100 pixels wide, it is equivalent to what, 180 pixels. Why for padding it is still 100 pixels, nothing changed. And if you had border, it's like 102 pixels wide, right? Your margin will collapse into each other. That is, if you kept the margin in the first one, like in the element before the next element you kept, So the top and bottom margins of an element, in most cases, they collapse into a single margin that is equal to the largest of the two margins. This does not happen on left and right. It's only your top and bottom. It's only in your top and bottom you see this. Yes, your div can be used interchangeably with section, but section is always used for one page websites, right? Why div is used to divide, and when you're trying to do your grid boxes and all of those things, that's when you use div. But for one page website, let's say that you can have one page website whereby everything you're trying to do is on one page, you're not leaving the page. And if you leave the page, you have more than one. So this is the demonstration of the margin collapse. I have to show you this so that you understand. So in this example, the HTML element has a bottom margin of 50 pixels and the HTML element has a top margin of 20. So the vertical margin between H1 and H2 should have been 50 pixels, that is 50 plus 20, that is the bottom here from H1 and the top here from H2. It's supposed to give you 70. But however, due to the margin collapse, the actual margin ends up being 50. It should not be 70 because there is a margin collapse. But if there is not a margin collapse, it will be what? It will be 70. Right? So yes. So in the above example, the H1 element has a bottom margin of 50% and the H2 element has a top bottom set to 20. Common sense will simply suggest that the vertical margin between H1 and H2 will be a total of 50 to 20. But due to the margin collapse, the actual margin ends up being what? 50 because of the collapse. But if there is no collapse, it will be what? It will be what? 70. So let's quickly do the exercise for margin. When we're done, give me a thumbs up in the comment section. It's just 4. So let's do the exercise. When we're done, just type done for the margin. I've just gotten to done.
Hello, ma. Please, I didn't see the exercise in my own.
In your W3 schools.
Yes, I just saw only margin and margin collapse. I saw
Are
only
you
one.
using offline version?
No, online.
Reload very well. Or let me say, check this. So check the link.
Okay, thank you, ma.
All right, so let's continue. Most of us are done. Then we'll look at what's padding. So don't forget, padding and margins are for space. And margins is used in between words. Is it used in between? Can somebody help us with the margin?
Margin is the space from the browser to the border.
The space outside the border.
Mm-hmm. All right. While for the padding is used to create space around an element's contents inside of any defined border. So the margin is the one outside, the padding is the one actually inside.
Inside.
So your padding properties are used to generate space around an element's content inside of any defined borders. With CSS, you have full control over the padding. There are properties for setting the padding for each side of an element, that is top, right, bottom, and left, right? And the CSS has properties for specifying the padding for each side of an element, that is padding top, padding right, padding bottom, and padding left. All the padding properties can have the following values. It's similar to that of margin: length, percentage, and inherit. And note that negative values are not allowed. Do you understand? And it also has the same shorthand the way margin does. It's similar to margin. The only difference is just that for margin,
It's just weird.
margin is outside of your border, while padding
You're
is inside of your border. Please, can you mute yourself? And also follows the 4 values. That is, if you just declare padding, you're going to follow the shorthand that the top, right, bottom, and left, clockwise direction. And if it's 3 values, it's going to follow top, right, and bottom. And if it is 2, you know that the first one is for top and bottom, the second one is for right and left. And if it is 1, that is, you're saying that it's for everything, the 4 sides. So padding and element width. The CSS width property specifies the width of the element content area. The content area is portion inside the padding, border, and margin of an element. We'll check out box model, which I've already explained earlier. So if an element has a specific width, the padding added to that element will be added to the total width of that element. This is often an undesirable result. Let me explain what I mean. So can you see this? So this is your padding and width element, right? So the div is what? 300 pixels wide. And the width of the div is what? 350 pixels, even though it is defined as 300 pixels in the CSS. It is defined as 300 pixels, but in the real sense, it is 350. Right? Why? Because it has a width. I mean, it has a padding of 25. So plus the padding of 25 and the width, that's what gave us a total of 350. Likewise, what I was explaining, that if you have a width of 100, then you now put a padding of 40, automatically becomes what? 180, right?
Please, I have a question.
Yes, what's your question?
So, padding, if you just say padding, it's supposed to pad both the top, down, left, and center, left and right, right?
Top, left, bottom, and right.
Yes. So, how come per this calculation is only padding the left and right and not the top and bottom?
It's only padding the left and right because of the width. It's just the width. The top and the bottom rather self. It's just the width. It's not doing anything with the height. It's the width that it increases. Whenever I use a padding, it increases the width. It does not affect the left and right, just the top and the bottom.
Okay, ma, thank you.
Yeah. So to keep the width of, if you want your width to be at 300 pixels, no matter the amount of padding you use, you can use the box sizing property. So it's a box size property that will help you maintain your width to be 300 pixels without it increasing. Sorry, it's your left and right, not your top and bottom, because it's your left and right that you're going to increase, right? It's the width, because you've kept 25 in your left, you've kept 25 in your right. So because you've kept 25 in your left and your right, it's going to increase your width.
So,
do you understand that, or I should say it again?
I understand now. It makes more sense.
Well, please come again.
All right. Okay, so let me continue. So, you know, our padding is supposed to increase our content, like it's in between the content and the border, right? So when you give a padding of 25 left and right, what happens? Your content becomes bigger. There's more space. In the process of it increasing and then being more space, what happens? Your width is going to increase. So if it's like you said, padding left 25 has increased. Padding right 25, your left and right side have both increased. And before, if your width was 300 before, because both sides have increased, that is your left padding, your right pad, your left padding, your right padding are both increased, automatically your width too is going to increase. That's what's going to increase. That's when we spoke of 100, it increased to 180, because we added 40 to both sides. So after adding 40 to both sides, what happened? The width became bigger. In this case, we added 25 to both sides. So because we added 25 to both the left and the right padding, what happened to the total width? The total width increased to 350. So if you don't want your width to increase, you just want to maintain that 300 pixels, even if you use a padding, you use your box size. So when you use your box size, it will become what? Border box and to not increase. Do we all get it now? Is it clear? Do we all get it?
Yes, ma.
Yes. So you can see more examples of how to set the left padding, right padding, and top padding. So let's quickly do the exercise. Then if you are done with the exercise, it's done. I will soon church because my phone is low. Okay, I've gotten one done. Okay, so I've gotten more than one done. So just move. So let's just move to width and height. I've gotten like 4 to 5 dons already. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Like 7 done. So let's continue. So for your width and your height, there are just properties used to set the width and height of an element, right? And there's also your CSS maximum width, which is used to set the maximum width of an element. So this element has a height of 50 pixels and a width of 100 percentage, right? So your CSS setting width and height. The width and height are properties used to set the width and the height and width of an element. So the width and height property do not include padding, borders, or margin. It sets the width and height of the area inside the padding, border, and margin of the width. Do you understand this statement I just made? Do we?
No.
All right, so I'll say that again. So I said that your width and your height properties, it will not include your padding, your border, or your margin. What it just does that it sets the width and height of the area inside padding, border, and margin of the element. And the area inside padding, border, and margin of the element is your what? Is your content. So your width and height just only affects your what? Your content. That is why whenever you increase your padding to the left and to the right, what happens? Your width is going to also, your width is also going to increase, because normally it's only the context that it increases, and the padding gives more space between the content and your border. So that's why your width is normally going to like increase, right? Yes, the size of the character, that is the width, the content, the size of the content. So your width and height just only affects only the size of the content. It does not include the other parts. Do you understand? So let's continue. So the width and the height property uses auto, it uses length, it uses auto, length, percentage, initial, and what? Inherit, right? This is an example of the width and height. So the element has a width of 200 pixels and a width of what? 50%. You can see that it's only the what? The content that got increased. So when it sets the width and height of a div element, it's also the content that also increase. So can you see? If you say 100%, it's going to extend to this other place. Do you understand?
Miss Titi. Hello, Miss Titi. I can see that the width in the first example is written in percentage, and another one is written in pixel. Why is it like that?
What do you say?
I said the width in some of the, try it yourself, is written in 15% in percentage. Yeah. And in the other example, the width is written in pixels.
So it depends. It depends on what you are trying to do. So sometimes you can use pixels, sometimes you can use percentage. And don't forget, I said a maximum width that can cover your whole screen is what? 100%. So if you don't want your width to cover percentage and you just only want it to cover pixels, you can use it in pixels, or better still, you can use it in 100% if you want it to cover the whole screen, or half of the screen will be like 50, right? So it depends on what you want to use it for. It's not like you always use 50% and all of those things. Do you get?
Yes, I
Yeah,
get.
Emma, please, I have a question.
All right.
So, for example, now you increase the width and the height of an element, and then you had a padding. Maybe you put a padding top. So does that mean that the space around the element is going to increase?
Yes, that's for the left
Like
and
the
right.
width is going to be added?
Do you understand?
Not really.
You know, for the left and right, you've increased it.
Yes.
So it's the left and right, literally.
What I'm trying to say is, for example, now I've increased the height and the width of an element, and then I added a padding to it. For example, I'm trying to increase the padding top by 50%, and I've already increased the height, let's say 100 pixels or something like that. That
Oh,
100
you're
pixels, is it
saying
going to
that
be added to the padding, like the space? I'm trying to, if the space are going to be added together.
for top and down, for top and bottom, right, it won't be added together, but for left and right, it will. Does that answer your
Okay.
question?
Okay, ma'am.
Is your width that would increase, your height won't increase whenever you add padding.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Do you get?
Yes, ma'am.
So please, so even if you increase the height, the padding at the top will still not increase.
That
Huh?
question is confusing. Can you say that again?
Okay, so you see, with regards to width has to do with increase on the left and the right. So if you add padding, automatically the spaces on the left and right increases. I'm saying, how about if you increase the height? Height has to do with increase top and bottom. So now if you increase the height and then you still add padding, which also is meant to increase the height, top, bottom, left, right, like would it still increase at the top?
Okay. All right. So I guess I got it for it. I got what you're trying to say. So you're saying that if you put a margin or a padding rather, would you also increase the what top and the bottom, right?
No, I'm not asking that. I know that if you put padding, it will increase top and bottom.
Okay.
Now I'm saying if you add height and you increase the height, would it like add up with the padding?
No, it's just
Wait.
only your width that will add up.
Okay, I tried something. No, is it at least like there was?
Yes.
I tried something now. And there was an height of 100%, and then I added a padding top of 50. So the
Okay.
original, like when I edited it and I added height and width, the text was like on top of the box, since there was a border. So when I added padding top, an extra space was added on top of it. Do you understand? It's like the box extended upward.
Okay. Okay. So you're saying that if you add padding and you also add height, there will be a
Yes,
significant increase.
yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. That's what I wanted to know.
All right. So you can also set maximum width, right? You can have maximum width, like the way I mentioned earlier. So let's do the exercise quickly. So there's apart from maximum height, there's also maximum width. There's also minimum height, and there's also minimum width. At our spare time, you can click on the try it yourself to actually see it.
Check UCH ENG.
Yes.
Yes, architects. Oh,
I didn't get what he said though. Okay, so I've gotten quite a lot of dons. So we can move. Okay. So now the box model. All HTML element can be considered as boxes. I've explained this earlier. And the term box model is used when talking about design and layout, right? So the box model is essentially a box that wraps every HTML element. So it consists of margin, paddings, borders, the actual content, and the actual content includes what? Your words, width and height. So this is your margin, this is your border, this is your padding, then this is your content. Then here is your what? Width, and here is what? Your height. Right? So we know what the context of the box is. The contents of the box include maybe your image or your text, whatever. And we also know what your padding is. So the area is around the content, and it's your padding, your border, you can see your border. But in most cases, your padding and your margin, you can't see them. right? They are transparent. It's not something you can easily identify. So this is how the box model is. If you notice, this is the text. Is this text like, or your content, like I said, that would have the words, the width and the height. That's why if you increase your padding, like you increase this place, maybe your height was already like maybe 100, then you now increase your padding to be like 20 on both sides. So increase your width more, to add more width to your width. Then this is your border. Then outside of your border here is what? Your margin. I'm sure we have said this thing 1 million times today. You can never forget the box models. You can never forget where your width, your height, your padding, and your margin is. When I first learned, it was really confusing me. I didn't understand the padding and the margin. I could not easily like differentiate them. That's why I'm making emphasis on this until I eventually got them. So in order to set your width and height of an element correctly in our browser, you need to know how the box model works. So it's important that when you set the width and the height properties of an element in CSS, you just set the width and height of the content area. So to calculate the full size of an element, you must also add padding, borders, and margin, so you can get the full size of an element. So this is an example of a div with a total of 300, 350. I mean 320. The div has 320 pixels, right? And they added what? 10 pixels and a border of 5 solid gray and a margin of 0. That's what we have here. So the width is what? 320. The padding is 1010. And your border is 5 and your margin is 0. They didn't put any margin. So we can see that this whole width thing increased and the total of the width now became 350. But when we're doing margin, I don't know if anybody can remember, they said there's a way we can make our images not work. How do we do that? I mean, there's a way we can make our width not increase. How do we do that?
Box sizer.
Yes, box sizing. So use the box sizing property. So when you use the box sizing property, your width is not going to increase, right? It's going to remain the way it is. So here's the calculation. 20 pixels left plus right, 10 pixels left plus right, 0. So that's what gave us the what? The 350. So we can do the exercise. So let's do the exercise quickly. So when we come back, we'll do that exercise on our classwork that we didn't do. That will be after break. I'll check out this outline and some things. All right. So are we all done with the exercise? Okay. So when we come back, we'll continue our classwork on the other one we were doing. Then we'll do some exercises there also. It will be on box model. That's why I came here to like testify what we already know on box model. So when we're doing the exercise, it will not be difficult. We already know how to go about it. So in the next 3 minutes, going on break. Tolu, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Break time, right?
Yes.
Okay, no problem. See you all by 12.